Hi guys, welcome to Young and Limitless. And today my amazing, beautiful guest is called Sam. She's a final year animation student and she has literally just finished her dissertation. Today she shares with us how stereotypes of race and religion are being broken down finally in animation and in the movies. And she also talks about how she's struggled over the last year to complete what she set her heart to start. So her catchphrase is finished, not perfect. And she says even if you keep moving 5 minutes every day, in the same direction, 5 minutes builds on 5 minutes builds on 5 minutes, and eventually you reach your goal. So guys, enjoy listening to what she shares. So hi Sam, how are you
Hello,
doing? Nice
I'm
to
doing
see you.
well, doing well. Much better now that my dissertation's handed in. That's all that
Yay!
stress free. And
What's the title of your dissertation?
that's the representation of race in anthropomorphic animals, basically, and how that's changed over time. So you had kind of Dumbo and the Jungle Book, which was very dodgy, racial stereotypes, and then you get to stuff that's today, which is like Zootopia, where it's kind of addressing prejudice and stuff. So that kind of evolution over time, how it's changed and how that reflects society and everything.
Wow.
Because with animated animals, it's really interesting because obviously they don't just have the appearance. Like obviously with humans, you can just look at them and tell what their race is. Whereas when it's an animal, if you want to convey that animal as having a human race, you need to, the creator needs to think, okay, what will the audience pick up on as a marker of, a black person or an Indian person or whatever. And then so then you can see kind of the societal attitudes of the time towards the different races very clearly because they've got to use the opinion because the kind of fact of the human appearance isn't there.
No. The most obvious one I can think of is like voice. So how else
Yeah.
do they just give over?
So yeah, so voice is the most common one, and also like it's what is more used today. They will, especially because with animation and animated feature films, now it's so popular to use well-known celebrities for voice actors to
Mm-hmm.
help draw in audiences. So you'll get actors like Chris Rock or
Yes.
Eddie Murphy. So then that will be the representation of race. They'll have a diverse cast of voice actors, and that will kind of be the extent of it. And if it's in the appearance, it's usually because they have designed the character to look like the voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past, they would, when they were using these stereotypes in the voice, they would have white voice actors talking in a stereotypical manner, so like
Oh,
jive talking or accents that they put on. And also then the appearance of the animal would be a stereotype. So if you think of like the Lady and the Tramp, the Siamese cats in Lady and the Tramp,
yes.
very angled eyes, buck teeth, and all of that. So it gets
You know
pretty
what?
dodgy.
That has never ever occurred to me. That
Yeah,
either were white voices behind. Well, I don't know. I think when I was younger, I just watched it all at face value. It never occurred to me at all.
exactly. And like it just because it's, oh, it's cartoon animals, it's fun, it's for children, and it just slips past.
Mm.
So when it's a human character, it's in a horrifically racist stereotype. They're like, oh God, this isn't appropriate anymore. They censor it, they cut it, they add warnings. Whereas with animated animals, it's completely passed by. So like the crows in Dumbo, again, the Siamese cats in Lady and the Tramp, um, in Oliver and Company, which is a film from 1988, there is a Chihuahua called Tito, who is a very, very heavy Mexican stereotype, all just completely slipped past. It wasn't until 2019, which is 2 years ago now, that they actually started putting warnings on those films on Disney Plus that these contain outdated views.
Ah,
And it was just fine. And then you look at this like, oh, this is horrifically racist. But it was just nobody cared.
well, people did care, but they just went along with it because, like, how until the people who make the animations, or yeah, there's very little we could. I'm pretty sure that adults would have known that when I was
Yeah.
younger.
But like, yeah, like you said, children, they just take it as face value. They
Yeah.
have no awareness, and then that kind of goes into their subconscious, and that can be really damaging. So it's something that kind of needs to be addressed, but it's starting to be addressed, but not in great detail. When I was little, I always wanted to draw animals. I didn't like drawing people. So then when I've been animating at uni, I've been animating animals a lot. And so then I wanted to do something to do with that for my dissertation, so it could relate to the work I was doing. And that was kind of thing that struck me as the most interesting because, like I said, it's not, you can't put it in as the appearance as you would with a human character. So you've got to find other ways, and it can kind of reveal a lot about the attitudes that person has who is making it.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting topic because it's so current, but B, it's like so relatively new to changing.
Yeah, yeah, like that's the thing I found most interesting because obviously we were learning about race representation in animation like just during theory. And the thing I found most interesting is like you'd have all these horrifically racist depictions of African Americans and others in animation. But then once kind of the Civil Rights Act movement happened and all of that kind of the prejudice depictions were discouraged or made illegal. I'm not quite sure if it is illegal or if it's just not thought of as the done thing anymore. But instead of moving on to kind of acceptable presentations or more diverse presentations of African Americans or other non-white characters, they just stopped putting them into the films, and it was just all white cast.
Okay.
It was like they couldn't perceive non-white people as anything other than these stereotypes they had. So when they weren't allowed to use the stereotypes anymore, they just didn't put them in. Wow. Until recently. It's only in like, the last 10 years that people say, come on, let's mix it up a bit. And it's only only in the last like 5 years or so that kind of you see films like Into the Spider-Verse, Soul by Pixar, Princess and the Frog.
Yes.
Although that was like 10 years ago, was it?
I think
you actually see people of color getting to be main characters. So yeah.
So do you think that's because more and more like producers or what do you call somebody who animates? An animator,
yeah. So I
more
think
of them are becoming up and like going through the ranks.
Yeah, so you hope that is the case. That it's because the kind of the creative team behind animated films are becoming more diverse. So then, of course, naturally, then the films become more diverse. I think especially like the seniority of the animation industry, I think is still extremely white. But I think kind of because of the conversations that are happening now, the push for diversity, like people are making their voices heard. You've got the Black Lives Matter movement. That is kind of is what's popular. So they're adding more diversity because it will sell. Okay. At least for the big studios, that's what they're worrying about. They're like, what will draw in families? What will make this movie
successful? It sounds like it's not the ethical, moral kind of reasons, it's more the financial, what will sell reasons.
Yeah, and you see it as well with LGBT representation, like in Pride Month, all these companies come out with rainbow everything. And it's like, you only started doing that once it was financially feasible. You weren't doing that when attitudes were that people would be angry that you were doing that. It's a kind of a jumping on the bandwagon, I feel, when it's a company. But at the same time, it's like, it's a very tricky topic.
It is a tricky, but it's a good topic to have a conversation about. So what was the first animal that you used to draw?
First animal that I used to draw was probably horses.
Oh, why is that? Why is that, Sam?
Because we had them. Because my mum had a horse ever since I was little, and because it was when my sister had started going to school, but I was still too young. My mum's horse was kicked in the field and her leg was broken.
Oh.
So my mum was having to do all this physical therapy with her once it had healed. She would have to go down 3 times a day to the stables to walk her. And of course, I was too young to be left on my own. It was just me, and she would take me with her. And so I would just spend most of that kind of part of my childhood on the yard, and she would kind of leave me with some snacks and some paper and pencils, and so I'd start drawing, and I was surrounded by horses, so I'd draw horses.
Oh.
And then football we got in 2010 for me when I was 12. So, and we've had him ever since, and now he's an old boy but still going strong. Yeah.
That's lovely. So now we're rolling on. So now you are, how old are you now? 22?
I'm 22.
22, okay. You are in your final year of studying. So what would be your dream then? In 5 years' time, can you imagine yourself doing?
The dream would be to be able to make a living off of art. I'm not sure if, like, after 3 years of learning animation, I'm like, do I want to do this as a career? Not really.
Okay.
But I would like to be an artist and make a living off doing art commissions. That would be kind of the dream.
What kind of art?
Art of people's pets, probably. Pet portraits.
Okay.
That kind of
so
thing.
Realistic drawings then.
Realistic, cartoony. Either or, yeah. Both. I enjoy doing both. Yeah.
So how do you think your animation studies will help you with that?
Well, they really help me with kind of getting a sense of movement.
Okay.
In sketches, in drawing. So, and also while I've been there, I've had life drawing education and stuff like that. It hasn't just been the technical side of animating, there's been art and drawing and all of that, and yeah, the kind of getting a sense of movement into images, I think.
A little bit about the piece you have to do for your exam then. Yeah.
My final film. So I wanted to do something about, my initial idea was like interviewing a bunch of people about their pets, and they tell me about their pets, because everyone always has these great anecdotes and these funny things that their pets have done. And so I conducted a load of those interviews, and people were really lovely and helpful and chipped in and volunteered. But then one of them really stood out, which was a woman from my yard, Tracy. She has 2 little falabellas, which are miniature ponies. They're even smaller than Lulu, teeny tiny. And she got them to help her with her agoraphobia. So, and that was such a kind of heartwarming and interesting story that's instead of doing kind of an anthology as I originally planned, I kind of wanted to just focus on that one. So yeah, that's my film.
If you could go back in time, because you said you're not quite sure with the animation, what would you have done differently?
I don't know. Obviously, because with hindsight being 2020, it's tricky because with the pandemic, it's kind of like, well, would I have even gone to university?
Okay.
So I think if I had, gone back in time and known the future and known the pandemic was going to happen, I think I might not have gone to university. I'd have just found some work and then tried building up an online presence with my art and doing commissions from there. I don't think I'd have gone to university, because such a big part of it, like why I wanted to go, was yes, to get a degree, because that's for a lot of jobs, it doesn't even matter what kind of you did your degree in, as long as you have one. That's seen as quite important, but also like the social experience, getting to live as a student, and obviously half of my uni life I haven't had. Halfway through second year it was lockdown, so I've kind of missed out on a lot of what was important to me about the university experience. So I think I would have saved the money.
To But it doesn't stop you from doing that online thing that you wanted to do. You can still do that.
Yeah, like I've done it anyway. Like over the summer
Mm.
last year, I did some art commissions, and I'm putting my art online to hopefully build up a following. Yeah, so I've still done it while being at university, but yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, what has powered you through this last year? What's kept you
just
going?
just get it finished. Like, don't worry. Like, there's like a saying for art is like finish, not perfect, which
Okay.
is like don't get so caught up in getting every little detail right that you never get anything done. Like, you will
No,
improve by doing things
that's good for
over and
life.
over and finishing projects. Yeah. So that's kind of become my philosophy for my degree, is like, don't think about your grades, don't try and get a high mark, just try and get it finished. Finish, not perfect, is the kind of the philosophy I've taken. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
so try
you've
and take
managed.
the pressure off myself. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you've managed
That's
to do
okay.
that though. So you've handed in your dissertation.
Yeah, and I got into the word count that I needed to. Yeah.
Yes, brilliant, well done. And then you got the animation to do. What else do you need to get done before the
Yes.
end?
So then there's one other project, which is our destinations project, which is basically setting ourselves up for life after graduation. We have to either make a website or kind of a social media around what we want to do. So if I was wanting to do animation, I would need to create a website that had my show reel on it,
Mm-hmm.
and my past work, and kind of as a sort of online CV of this is what I can do, this is what I want to do. But what's great is it doesn't have to be on animation. Is the
Good.
whole What's great about fun, like the university I'm at, is they want you to succeed no matter what you do. So um, I can make my website about being an artist and having nothing to do with animation, and it'll be perfectly fine, and they'll mark it as they'll mark everyone else's. I'm really looking forward to working on that project because it will be relevant to me, and
Yes.
it'll be something I can really tailor to how I want it. Yeah.
And it's really lovely that you're in a place where they really want you to succeed, and they're willing to,
Yeah,
be
definitely.
really flexible with that, not rigid.
Just know they really care about the students and making sure the students are doing something they're happy doing. So yeah.
Mm. So when people are your age and in doing what you're doing, but aren't in that kind of supportive environment, what
Yeah.
what what would you say they could do to help, or who could they get to help them when they're in the finals, they don't have that flexibility, they need to get it done, they know they need to get it done, but they've got no motivation or support.
Um, Gosh, it's tricky because like what I want to say is like, try and find a support network. Because
Yes.
obviously what's so tricky right now is like not being able to see people in person, being isolated, is like usually like your friends who are usually the people who give you kind of that emotional support. It's You can't get to them. And
Mm.
like, yeah, you can talk to them on Zoom or Discord or whatever, but that can be so difficult. Like, I personally find it um online calls quite difficult, especially if it's a group of people, um, because I have sometimes have trouble with auditory processing. So when
Okay.
it's a lot of people speaking at once, coming through headphone speakers, I really struggle to pass it out. So like that's kind of I'm kind of not able, even if I can speak to my friends, I can't get the same support from them that I did pre-pandemic when we could all meet up in person. So really, I've mostly been relying on my family, and um, they've been kind of the key support. But then again, if I remember being like, before I went away to uni, I was like, I couldn't wait to leave. I didn't want to talk to my family anymore. I wanted to, be independent, and once you get to that point, everyone's kind of getting on each other's nerves.
Yes.
So it's tricky to say rely on your family and let your parents be there for you, because I know that's kind of, for a lot of people, that's kind of the last thing you want to do. But that's kind of what I ended up doing, because I was living, even if I couldn't go into university, I was living in my university accommodation last term before Christmas, and I got so depressed. It was awful. I wasn't getting out of bed. I think I ended up going almost 3 days once without eating. So yeah, it was terrible. So finding whatever way you can to be around people, and around, more importantly, around people that will get you up and get you out of bed, I think is the most important. Yeah.
So when you were in bed for 3 days or not eating for 3 days, what pushed you into, looking after yourself a bit better?
I think it was just the thing of like, I have to get up, otherwise this is going to be a serious problem. I think I managed to get myself in the shower, and I was standing up in the shower and I almost passed out. I had to sit down and have my shower sitting down because of the steam and having not eaten for 3 days. I was like, oh, okay, this is a problem.
Okay, so it was like the scare factor was that you knew you had to do something because you didn't want to get any worse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then kind of I did go home like a couple of days at one point, and I should have just stayed, but I went back, and I went back and straight back down again because I'd come home and I'd gotten better and went back to uni, and it was straight back to square one. So then I came home for Christmas and I was like, no more, I'm just going to stay at home.
Okay.
Stay around people. Yeah. And also the benefit is, my mum and my sister cook, so food is available.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't go.
And also you've got football, you've got other things to get you out and get you moving.
Yeah. Got the cat, can hug the cat and make me feel better. Can go out, look after the horse. Yeah.
Yeah. You had some temporary lambs.
Yeah, fostered some lambs.
Yeah. So that sounds like you've had quite an interesting year, because not only with the course and like what you're gonna what do you do with what you've studied, and then motivation to finish your dissertation and your, what do you call it, show reel, but also the emotional, the mental,
the struggle. Yeah.
Struggle, yeah.
Because literally at the beginning of the year I was like, if it wouldn't be a huge waste of money, I would drop out. Like, that was the only thing that stopped me from dropping out at the beginning of my third year, was the thought of being in a ton of debt with no degree. That was the only thing. If someone had said your uni is free, you're not gonna be in any debt, I'd have been like, right, bye. I'd have left, because it was just looking at a long, hard slog and not wanting to do it at all. Yeah. So yeah, it was very, very difficult, and you kind of got to be quite mercenary almost with your motivation of, not even kind of, you'll enjoy it once you started, or just think of the degree at the end. It's like, you will be wasting a lot of money. That's the only thing.
It's interesting, and everybody's got different motivation for doing it. So it almost like doesn't really matter what the motivation is, even if it's not true. I'm pretty sure your parents wouldn't be in the end of the world, would it? They would have understood.
Yeah.
But your motivation doesn't matter. It just got you through it. It got you to the end.
Exactly.
And you're gonna have a good party.
Yeah, but it's like the thing that, because I didn't realize like there was a pandemic in like the late 1910s, like around 1918s, with the Spanish flu, I think it was.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I get why the Roaring Twenties happened now.
Yeah.
You don't have to isolate anymore. What nuts. So,
yeah.
I think that will be something that happens.
I ask you, so when you were in that state before Christmas, and you just weren't in a good headspace, if there's somebody out there who has a friend like that, what can they do? How can they help them?
I think just like going and making yourself known. So like go into their room, if like say you're in a uni household together or something, or call them, and even if they don't pick up, keep calling them, because that person lying in bed, they're not there because they want to be. They aren't not doing their work because they want to. They're just so low that they can't face doing it. So it's just, sometimes it is just getting a conversation with them and chivying them and saying, come on, let's go downstairs and get breakfast. Let's get work started. And holding their hand through it, which, they might get annoyed at you. They might, say, oh, I just can't. But I think even if like you've got to, they say they can't, you leave it for that day, call them up the next day. And it's a lot to ask of somebody to be that persistent and offer that support, but it's also extremely valuable, and they'll thank you.
Because it could be like they knock you back, they knock you back, and then one day they will say yes.
Exactly.
But and it is hard, because for your own motivation, for your own self to keep going, let alone to help somebody else. But
and like also it's the kind of, sorry to kind of keep saying it, but to stay on the phone with them, because my mum would call me and I'd say, yeah, everything's fine, I'm doing fine, but I wasn't fine at all. So it's saying, right, I'm staying on the phone with you, I'm listening to you, and we want you to get up and eat breakfast, and while you're on the phone, because that'll be kind of the level that someone needs.
And that's another reason where animals are really good, aren't they? Because if I had a dog, I'd like throw the dog in the room. I don't know if student accommodation can ever have pets, unfortunately. But if you're at home,
if you have if you're with a private landlord, I know I have friends who, because Farnham there isn't a lot of uni-owned student accommodation, a lot of it is private landlords.
Okay.
And a lot of them have been able to have pets. That's been good.
But at least we're coming to the end of it. So, and you have done so well.
Thanks.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yes, I am. I got that essay done. I don't have to write another one again in my life.
I like it. You say that, but down the line, you kind of tend to do it.
Don't. Let me bask.
You can have some time off. Have a couple of years off.
Yeah.
Oh, so is there anything else you'd like to add?
If you can get through it at the end of it, you'll be so glad you did. And even if you can only do, if you're working on something that is a long-term project, even if you can only do a tiny little bit a day, like because a big part of it is you'll think to yourself, oh, I've got to get X amount done today, and that's just is too much, and so you end up not doing anything because you can't face starting to say, what is such a comically small amount of work that I can get done? It is like, it's 5 minutes, it's 10 minutes, it's a ridiculously small amount that doing it would be easy, and it's like, right, okay, do that, and yes, I can do this. Do it. Because if you think, no, I can't only do that much, I've got to do more, you won't end up doing anything. So just make it manageable for yourself, even if that means you feel like you still fall behind. You'll be so much further along than if you overfaced yourself and didn't do anything.
Because at least you're moving in the right direction, even if it is one tiny 10-minute step at a time.
And although my mum says that and I always get so annoyed at her, it's like, it'll be all right once you've started. Or what she would do is like, if we ever had to get up really early for the horses, if we were going to a competition or something, she'd be like, you'll enjoy it once you're there. But once you get started, you think, okay, I've got everything set up, I've gotten this 5 minutes of work done, I can do 5 minutes more. So it's just that kind of tricking your brain of, you're going to do such a comically small amount, you can manage it, even in kind of a situation as tricky as this one.
Sam, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you were very vulnerable there. I appreciate the time. But so that's it, guys. Thank you for listening and have a great week. That's bye from me and bye from Sam.
Bye.